On June 2, 2026, the United States government made its boldest bet yet on artificial intelligence, a bet worth hundreds of billions of dollars. President Trump signed an executive order that strips away regulatory guardrails and doubles down on American AI dominance. But here's the question nobody is asking out loud: what happens if the bet doesn't pay off? On June 2, 2026, President Donald J. Trump signed an executive order titled Promoting Advanced Artificial Intelligence Innovation and Security. The White House fact sheet lays out the framing clearly. The United States continues to lead the world in AI, and the administration credits that lead to what it calls the enormous talent and innovation of the American AI industry, and, critically, to a refusal to stifle that innovation with what it terms overly burdensome regulation. Now, let's be precise about what this means. This isn't just rhetoric. Earlier in his term, Trump revoked the Biden administration's 2023 AI executive order, which had required developers of large AI models to share safety test results with the government before release. That rollback was the first domino. This June 2026 order is the second. It actively directs federal agencies to promote AI adoption, to use AI to strengthen America's cybersecurity posture, and to protect critical infrastructure, but it does so from a framework that prioritizes speed and deployment over precaution. The order frames AI as a national security asset and an economic engine simultaneously. And that dual framing matters, because it means the justification for going fast isn't just about tech company profits, it's framed as a matter of national competitiveness. The White House is essentially saying, we cannot afford to regulate AI the way Europe is regulating it, because slowing down means losing. That's the core thesis, and everything else flows from it. So what does an innovation-first approach to AI actually look like in practice? Let's break it down. The administration's argument rests on a simple premise, that heavy-handed regulation kills innovation, and that the American AI industry, companies like OpenAI, Anthropic, Google DeepMind, Meta, and Microsoft, has earned its global lead precisely because the US government has largely stayed out of the way. There's a legitimate point buried in there. The European Union's AI Act, which began phased enforcement in 2025 and 2026, has been criticized even by European tech leaders for pushing AI development outside of Europe. Companies have cited compliance costs, uncertainty about which rules apply to which systems, and a general chilling effect on frontier research. The US sees that and says, not us. But here's where I'd push back. There's a difference between smart regulation and burdensome regulation. The Biden order wasn't banning anything, it was asking companies developing the most powerful models to share safety data with the government before public release. That's closer to a clinical trial model than to a ban. By framing all oversight as burdensome, the administration is creating a false binary: either you regulate heavily and lose, or you deregulate completely and win. The real question is whether there's a middle ground, a framework that allows rapid deployment while still requiring transparency around the most powerful systems. The June 2026 order doesn't engage with that question. It picks a side. And that side is, let the industry police itself. Let's talk about the actual economics, because the policy makes no sense without understanding the money behind it. According to The Guardian's June 2026 analysis, a piece titled Billions Spent and Hypothetical Returns, the AI boom explained with 6 charts, AI expenditure is growing fast and consumer take-up is accelerating. The headline numbers are staggering. The major tech companies, Microsoft, Google, Meta, Amazon, and others, collectively committed to spending well over $200 billion on AI infrastructure in 2025 and 2026 combined. That's data centers, GPUs, energy, talent acquisition. And on the consumer side, adoption is real. ChatGPT alone crossed 800 million weekly active users. AI features are now embedded in search, in productivity software, in phones. This isn't hypothetical usage anymore, it's mainstream. But The Guardian's reporting also flags the tension in its own headline: hypothetical returns. The spending is concrete. The revenue, in many cases, is not. Most AI products are not yet profitable on a standalone basis. The economics depend on the assumption that AI capabilities will continue improving at their current pace, and that someone, businesses, consumers, enterprises, will pay enough to justify the infrastructure costs. This is why the regulatory environment matters so much to these companies. If you're spending $200 billion, you need the freedom to deploy products quickly to generate returns. Regulation slows deployment. So from the industry's perspective, the June 2026 executive order isn't just good policy, it's a signal that the government will protect their investment. And that alignment between government policy and corporate spending is worth paying attention to, because it tells you who this order really serves. Now, I'd be doing you a disservice if I only told you the upside. The Guardian piece notes explicitly that alongside the explosive growth, quote, alarm bells are sounding. So what are those alarm bells? Let me give you the specific categories. First, there's the cybersecurity dimension. The executive order claims it will use AI to strengthen America's cybersecurity, but AI is a double-edged sword. The same large language models that can detect threats can also be used to generate phishing campaigns, write malware, and automate social engineering at unprecedented scale. Multiple security firms reported in 2025 and 2026 that AI-generated attacks were increasing both in volume and sophistication. Second, there's the labor displacement question. Consumer AI adoption is accelerating, yes, but that acceleration is happening in tasks that were previously done by humans. We're seeing early effects in customer service, content writing, legal document review, and entry-level programming roles. The administration's innovation-first framing doesn't address what happens to the people on the other side of that efficiency gain. Third, there's the competitive dynamic with China. The US is racing ahead on the assumption that speed equals advantage. But China is investing heavily in its own AI capabilities and has a completely different relationship between government and industry, one where the state directs and the companies comply. The US strategy assumes that free market speed will outpace state-directed speed. That's not guaranteed. And fourth, the one nobody wants to talk about, is the question of what happens when these systems become more capable than anyone anticipated. The companies building frontier models have themselves published research about potential risks. When the builders are saying we're not sure what happens at the next capability threshold, and the government responds by removing the oversight that would monitor those thresholds, that's a genuine cause for concern. Not panic, but concern. Zoom out for a second, because this isn't just an American story. There are essentially three models of AI governance competing right now, and the June 2026 order crystallizes the American one. Model 1 is the European approach, the EU AI Act. It's risk-based, it categorizes AI systems by potential harm, and it bans or heavily regulates the highest-risk applications. It's thorough. It's also slow, and as I mentioned, it's been criticized for pushing talent and capital elsewhere. Model 2 is the Chinese approach. China regulates AI content and requires alignment with state priorities, but it also pours enormous state resources into AI development. The government and companies like Baidu, Alibaba, Tencent, and ByteDance work in tight coordination. It's fast, but it serves the state first. Model 3, the one the US just doubled down on, is the market-first approach. Let companies compete. Let consumers choose. Intervene only when there's a clear, demonstrated harm. The June 2026 executive order is a full-throated endorsement of this model. And here's my honest assessment, each model has real trade-offs. The European model protects citizens but may sacrifice competitiveness. The Chinese model is fast but serves political interests over individual ones. The American model maximizes innovation and economic growth but shifts risk onto individuals and society. The question isn't which model is right in the abstract, it's which trade-offs you're willing to live with. The US has chosen speed and growth. We're about to find out what that costs. The conferences tell the story too. Momentum AI hit New York in April 2026, London in June, Austin in September, and a finance-focused event in November. The industry is converging globally, but the rules of the game are diverging by region. Let's get practical, because policy documents are abstract but their effects are not. If you're watching this, the June 2026 executive order will likely touch your life in three concrete ways. First, expect faster AI deployment in the tools you already use. Without the requirement to share safety data with regulators, companies will ship AI features more aggressively. Your search engine, your email, your productivity apps, all of these will get more AI capability, faster. That's mostly good news. You'll get better tools sooner. Second, if you work in a field that involves routine cognitive tasks, and that's a broader category than most people realize, pay attention. The removal of regulatory friction means companies will deploy AI to replace or augment those tasks faster than they would have under a more cautious framework. This isn't fear-mongering. It's just the logical consequence of the policy. Start thinking now about what skills are complementary to AI rather than substitutable by it. Third, and this is the subtle one, the French startup Zencolab, which uses AI to analyze retinal images and detect eye diseases at an early stage, is a perfect example of what deregulation can accelerate. That kind of medical AI application could save vision and save lives. Under a heavier regulatory regime, it might take years longer to reach patients. Under the current framework, it moves faster. That's the genuine upside of innovation-first policy. Real benefits reach people sooner. But the same speed that gets you early eye disease detection is the speed that gets you unchecked deepfakes during an election cycle. The policy doesn't distinguish between beneficial applications and harmful ones. It just says, go fast. Here's where I land on all of this. The June 2026 executive order is not irrational. The United States genuinely does lead the world in AI, and that lead has been built on a culture of innovation that rewards risk-taking. There's a version of history where this bet pays off, where American AI transforms medicine, energy, science, and productivity, and where the rest of the world follows. But there's also a version where the absence of guardrails lets something through that we can't put back. The honest truth is that nobody, not the policymakers, not the CEOs, not the researchers, knows which version we're living in yet. That's not a reason to panic. But it is a reason to pay attention. The most important thing you can do right now is not pick a side in the regulation debate. It's to understand what's actually happening, so that when the consequences arrive, good or bad, you're not surprised. Because the future isn't something that happens to you. It's something you're already living in. And right now, it's moving faster than ever.